Okay, already experiment number 5 is also shared on Saturday itself. Experiment 5 is shared on the Saturday itself. In this is experiment number 5, that is aim to study the pH of different samples of soils. That is the aim. Experiment number 5 in the header, and next followed by that first aim, next requirements, and the next procedure, and next after procedure we have got observations. This observation table on the left side and the result on the right side, followed by precautions. Okay, and next you can find one diagram here. That diagram you have to draw on the left side. Diagram followed by observation table on the left side. On the right side we have to draw, we have to write aim, requirements, procedure, and next result and precautions. Diagram and next observation and observation table on the left side. Understand? Anybody is having any doubt?
No,
Already
sir.
it is shared on Saturday itself. You can write today if anyone not written. Okay now. Next, coming to the subject. Okay, we are discussing about the major abiotic factors. What are the different major abiotic factors means? Temperature, water, light, and soil. Okay, temperature, water, light, and soil. These are the 4 major abiotic factors. In that we are discussing about the temperature. Okay, temperature. Temperature is the most important ecologically relevant environmental factor. That means, okay, the abundance of species in an area is mainly depending upon the temperature. Okay, mainly, that's why he's saying important ecologically relevant environmental factor. That means with reference to environment, which is considered as the most important factor means temperature. And next, you are aware that the average temperature on the land varies seasonally, decreases progressively from the equator towards the poles and from plains to the mountain tops. And it ranges from sub-zero levels in polar areas and high altitudes to more than 50 degrees centigrade in tropical deserts in summer. There are, however, unique habitats such as thermal springs and deep sea hydrothermal vents where average temperatures exceed 100 degrees centigrade. It is general knowledge that mango trees do not and cannot grow in temperate countries like Canada and Germany. Okay, when you observe here, when you observe the mango plants, usually the mango plants will grow mostly in the southern part of India. In the northern part of India also we don't find the mango trees growing. And in temperate regions we are not able to observe these mango trees. They are generally grown in the tropical regions. And next, when you observe the snow leopards are not found in Kerala forest. So in the tropical regions, we don't find snow leopards. In the temperate regions only we'll find snow leopards. And then when you observe the tuna fish are rarely caught beyond tropical latitudes in the ocean. That means in the tropical regions of oceans only, we'll find the tuna fish. In the temperate regions, we don't find tuna fish. Okay, that is. And next, why this temperature is playing a very important role? Means that is, you can appreciate the significance of temperature to living organisms when you realize that it affects the kinetics of enzymes and through it the metabolic activity and other physiological functions of the organism. So why the temperature is very, very important means it is the factor which is mainly determining the enzymatic activity, thereby different physiological activities. These enzyme activities are mainly meant for driving different metabolic activities, which in turn determine the physiological functions of an organism. And these enzymes are working in a narrow range of temperatures. That means in every organism, these enzymes will work at a specific temperature. That's why for every species, the temperature is specific. Why? Because at that temperature only the enzymes are more active. So determining the metabolic activities, thereby determining the physiological functions of the organism. Okay. And next, when you observe some organisms can tolerate to a wide range of temperatures, but some organisms cannot tolerate to wide range. They will be tolerating to a narrow range of temperature changes. That's what we can see here. A few organisms can tolerate and thrive in a wide range of temperatures. They are called eurythermal. Okay, those organisms which can tolerate to wide range of temperature. That means even if the temperature changes are more, or there is a large difference between maximum and minimum temperature in that area, even in that area, they are able to survive. Okay, such organisms we call it as eurythermal. Eury means wide range. Thermal means temperature. Only a few organisms, but a vast majority of them are restricted to narrow range of temperature. Such organisms are called stenothermal. Most of the organisms can tolerate to a narrow range of temperatures. That means small difference in the temperature. Even a small change in the temperature, they cannot tolerate. Okay, such organisms which can tolerate to a narrow range of temperatures, we are calling it as a stenothermal. We are calling it as a stenothermal. And next, when you observe here, the levels of thermal tolerance of different species determine to a large extent their geographical distribution. Okay, that means if the organisms are able to tolerate a wide range of temperatures, they are able to thrive in certain environmental conditions, certain geographical areas. Okay, that means on the earth surface where we'll find wide range of temperatures, there these organisms, that is the eurythermal organisms are present. And those areas where we'll find a narrow range of temperatures, in those areas we'll find stenothermal organisms. So those, okay, those will be present in that area. Okay, can you think of a few eurythermal and stenothermal animals and plants? When you observe the birds and mammals, when you observe the birds and mammals comes under the eurythermal. Okay, most of the birds and mammals comes under the eurythermal, whereas the invertebrates and the lower groups of vertebrates, that is fishes, amphibians, reptiles, they are mostly fallen into the stenothermal. Invertebrates, only a few exceptions. Most of the invertebrates, and next organisms which were considered as fishes, reptiles, okay, amphibians and reptiles, they are fallen into the stenothermal. And next, when you observe the plants, almost all the plants are stenothermal. Almost all the plants are stenothermal. Okay. And next, in recent years, there has been a growing concern about the gradual increasing average global temperature. That is what we called as global warming. Okay, this content will discuss in the chapter 16, that is environmental issues in detail about the global warming. Okay, that means in the recent years, there is a rapid increase in the Earth's average temperature. Earth's average temperature. Overall the Earth, what is the average temperature? Okay, there is an increase in the rapid increase in the Earth's average temperature. What are the causes for this global warming? What are the effects of this global warming? That one we'll discuss while we are discussing in the chapter 16 about this global warming. And next, if this trend continues, would you expect the distributional range of some species to be affected? Yes, because most of the organisms are narrow range organisms, stenothermal. So if the Earth's temperature is increasing, because of, okay, the average temperature of the Earth is increasing means, then because of that increased temperature, those organisms which cannot tolerate, they undergo extinction. And they are completely removed from the Earth's surface, disturbing the ecological balance. So that's why we have to observe that the Earth's average temperature should not be increased. We have to take certain measures to reduce this global warming. Okay, that one we'll discuss in the chapter 6 again. Okay. And next, another important factor, that is water. Water, because distribution of organisms in any geographical area is mainly depending upon the availability of the food and water. First one is food and the next one is water. If water is available, automatically the vegetation will be more, and if the vegetation is more, automatically the organisms or the animals will also be more. So we'll find more number of different species diversity we can observe, more species diversity. We can observe clearly in India, most of the cities are present on the river bank. Okay, most of the cities are present on the river banks where water is available, surplus. There only the human settlements have done. In the same manner, the other organisms also. Where we'll find water, there we'll find more biodiversity. You can see very clearly Amazon forest, which is present on the bank of this Amazon river. Okay, now, so water is another important factor that influencing the life of organisms. In fact, life on earth originated in water. When you observe the evolution, the first life was originated in water. So without water, there is no life. Okay, and next, and is unsustainable without water. That means we cannot survive without water. We can't survive without water. And next, when you observe here, its availability is so limited in deserts that only special adaptations make it possible for organisms to live there. When you observe the deserts, in deserts, what is the limiting factor for the organisms to live? In the desert means water availability. Those organisms which have developed certain special adaptations to conserve water or to store water, those organisms are only present in the deserts. That's what, okay, in the deserts. And next, the productivity and the distribution of plants is also heavily dependent on water. So wherever there is a more rainfall, there will find more vegetation. Where there is more rainfall or where there is more water is available, there we find different types of plants. That is, and next, the productivity, that is the production of organic matter in a year will also be more when the water is available surplusly. And next, you might think that organisms living in oceans, lakes and rivers should not face any water related problem, but it is not true. Any even though the organism is living inside the water, they will face certain problems related to water. Why? Because here the salinity of the water is determining water. Okay, for example, if you take ocean, okay, a organism, a animal is living in a ocean. Okay, in the ocean, a lot of water is available, but the organism which is living in that water will face certain problems with the water availability. Why? Because the problem is when you observe the water that is present in the ocean or sea, it is having high salinity. That means more salt concentration when compared to the concentration of the blood or fluids that are present in that organism of sea or ocean. Okay, because of this difference in the salinity, okay, the ocean water is having high salinity, whereas the body fluids of the organism is having less salinity. Okay, low salinity means high water potential. That means higher water concentration. High salinity means lower water potential or lower water concentration. Okay, you might have studied in your chemistry. Always the molecules will move from a higher concentration to lower concentration. Here, in case of organisms which are living in ocean or sea, the organism body is having a higher water concentration, whereas the ocean water is having a lower water concentration because of high salinity. That means lower water potential. So the water will continuously comes out of the body of the organism which is living in a marine water. So as a result, the organism becomes dehydrated. So here, the organisms which are living in marine water, they have to conserve water. They have to preserve water. They do not allow the water to move out of the body into the ocean. For that purpose, what they have to do means they will store certain chemicals in their body. As a result, their concentration of the body fluid is increased and is balanced with the concentration of the ocean water or sea water. As a result, the balance will be maintained. And at the same time, if you observe any organism is living in fresh water, here what happens? The concentration of fresh water is less. That means the water potential or water concentration in the fresh water is high, higher water potential, higher water concentration in the fresh water when compared to the body fluids of the freshwater organism. As a result, what happens? Okay, the water will move from higher water potential to the region of lower water potential. That is from a water body into the body of the organism. So continuously the water is taken up. And we know very well the animal cells do not have cell wall. They have got only plasma membrane which is elastic in nature. How much water it can able to withstand this plasma membrane, that much water it can enter. Beyond its elasticity, even still the water is entering into the cell. It will make the cells burst, leading to the death of that organism. So the freshwater organisms are also facing certain problems, even though they are living in water, with the water. Maybe the marine water is having some problem. Freshwater organisms are having some other problem. But whatever it is, depending upon the concentration of the water and the body fluids of the organism, okay, every organism, even though they are living in water, they are facing certain problems with the water. So that what we can see here. For aquatic organism, the quality, that is chemical composition and pH of water becomes important. That is, the salt concentration measured as salinity in parts per thousand is less than 5 in inland waters. Inland water means fresh water, rivers, streams, canals, ponds. These are considered as the inland waters because they are covered on all sides by the land. That's why we are calling it as the inland waters. Rivers, streams, canals, lakes, ponds. This all comes under inland waters, which are the fresh water. In that, the salt concentration will be 5 ppt, parts per thousand. ppt, parts per thousand. ppm, parts per million. Here it is given parts per thousand. And when you observe the sea water or ocean water, it is around 30 to 35 parts per thousand. And if it is saline water or hyper saline water, that means higher salt concentration, like Dead Sea. You know Dead Sea?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the Dead Sea,
Yes, sir.
we can find the higher salt concentration on the earth surface. Okay, when you observe even the human will float on that water because of the high salinity. Okay, there we'll find more than 100 ppt, parts per thousand, in some hypersaline lagoons like this Dead Sea. And next, same as the Duff temperature, some organisms are able to tolerate a wide range of salinity. They are called euryhaline. But other organisms are restricted to a narrow range of salinity. They are called stenohaline. They are called stenohaline. And next, when you observe here, okay, when you observe whether you take freshwater organisms or okay, freshwater organisms or marine water organisms, both are stenohaline organisms only. They will be tolerate to a narrow range of salinity. But those organisms which are living in the estuary, what are estuaries? Can anyone know what is meant by estuary?
No, sir.
Okay, estuary. Estuary means, or estuaries means the region where the river meets with the sea, which we commonly called as mouth of the river. Where the river meets with the sea. Okay, the sea water is having higher salinity, whereas the fresh water is having a lower salinity. Okay, now, but there are fishes which can live both in saline water and marine water at this estuary. Because during rainy season, when there is more rainfall, more rainwater will come and join with the sea. At that time, the salinity of that water is a little bit low when compared to the sea. But during the rainy, okay, during the summer season or winter season, what happens? Very less amount of water will come and joins the sea. At that time, in that estuary water, we'll find higher salinity. But those organisms which are living in that estuary, they are able to tolerate both lower salinity as well as higher salinity. That means they are able to tolerate a wide range in the salinity. Those are called euryhaline organisms. But those which are especially living in marine water, only confined to fresh water, those which we called as stenohaline. Okay, that is, we can see here, many freshwater animals cannot live for long in sea water and vice versa because of the osmotic problems they would face. Okay, if you place a freshwater organism in a marine water organism, it cannot survive. At the same time, if you place a marine water organism in freshwater organism, it will also cannot survive because of the osmotic problems, because of the difference in the salinity of the water. They cannot able to tolerate, and they finally leads to the death of that organisms if they weight change. That's why if you are growing a freshwater fish in your aquarium, you have to place only fresh water. If you are growing a marine water fish, you have to place only marine water. Most of them will grow only fresh water in the aquarium because they are available freely. Okay, these are the some of the problems that are faced by the organisms with reference to water.